So, welcome to Annie's quarantine. Welcome to Annie's 14 days quarantine vlog. Basically, I'm going back to Shanghai because of this whole coronavirus situation. So, a very special life experience for me. Excited to see what goes on in the 14 days for me, like what could go on. Hopefully not coronavirus, that's all I'm hoping for. And I'll see you in my next clip. Our terminals, our dates, and we're sitting in Paris right now. It's going to be a long flight of 11 hours after. And there's actually this surgical mask. I don't think it actually helps with the virus, but I'm saving the N95 mask for the plane, so I'm gonna be really prepared for this journey. We have arrived in the lounge. I'm not planning to eat anything on the plane provided by the air company, so I'm stuffing my face right now. And plane to Shanghai, and it's crazy because everybody's wearing a mask, and I've never seen such a scene before, so it's quite scary. Yeah, we'll see what happens in 11 hours in the Shanghai airport. 6 more hours to go. I changed my mask. I bought 2 masks because apparently we're supposed to change the mask every single 4 hours. So I did that, and now I'm gonna go to sleep. See you whenever. I think this is Beijing, but I'm not sure. Like super pretty. So right now we're waiting for the basically there's quarantine control coming on board to check everybody's health status, and then if it's fine, then we'll all get off board and then get checked once again. In the airport, my aunt and uncle got let out earlier because they were in first class, but yeah, now everybody's just waiting in line to get their turn to be questioned. And so, I am inside my own country in Shanghai finally, and basically they stick this sticker on your passport depending on how serious your, like where you came from is, like the corona situation. For example, if it's Italy, I suppose it will be a red sticker, but I came from Switzerland from the layover in Paris, so it's a yellow sticker, and I think they're gonna let me to self-quarantine at home. I hope that's what's happening to my aunt and uncle. But I have no idea, and the airport looks so empty right now. I don't believe my eyes that this is China. Take a look. We just got registered by, basically it's just split into different, I'm gonna explain this later, but yeah, we just got registered, and now we're gonna go to the car, followed by the quarantine control, because they have to send us up to the car, and someone's gonna pick us up in front of the condo as well. Baby, we're going home. Yeah. So I'm back in my car, not my car. My parents. The community that my aunt and uncle live in, they have to register each community. So now I have to go get checked by the people in my condo, test my temperature, and then get registered for my 14 days of self-quarantine at home.
都是为了你的。
Oh! It's hurting my face. I'm back home, but in quarantine. I just want to go through what I went through today. Actually, maybe it's better if I do it later because I'm actually really tired. It's actually really interesting to see the contrast in Geneva to Paris, there was literally no one wearing masks apart from, I would assume that they're Chinese people, but I can't tell completely because they're like half of their face is missing, and the rest are just normal people like living their lives going to Paris. And then when you land in Paris, you see so many people wearing masks, and then it's not just Asian looking people, and it's also like European people. Like you know that they're not tourists because they look like they like you can tell that. Hilarious when I see it, honestly, because everybody, including the air cabin crew, was wearing those N95 masks, including myself, of course. And then cabin crew had those glasses. It's insane. Like I've never seen a scene like that in my entire life before. And there were these two passengers. It was so funny because they had this whole suit that's like this protective suit you only see in movies in like a zombie apocalypse or like a pandemic situation like right now, like what we have right now. But I mean, it's just I'm sorry, I shouldn't call it a funny situation, but I found it genuinely made me laugh. And I spent 11 hours on the airplane on a window seat, so I had one seat between me and another passenger. We actually started talking. Her daughter is in Montpellier Montpellier for okay, I cannot switch English and French. Fuck. She's in France studying, so then she visited her in December, and because of this epidemic outbreak in Wuhan in China, she couldn't go back. So she stayed in France for 3 months just for another epidemic to start over, and then now she's coming back. It's actually not that bad, but I was just extremely paranoid and anxious when someone starts coughing or starts sneezing, although I barely notice it usually when there's never this kind of situation. You can probably see from my vlog style video from on the airplane, I said I wouldn't eat in the lounge, but I still did because apparently I'm not afraid to die or something. Right now, I know that European air companies are, I think, stopped all the airlines to China in general. It's probably just China Eastern and some other Chinese airlines and Asian airlines that are still in charge of this route. Basically, they're not serving proper food anymore. It's just they give you a box, they give you a white box with snacks inside, and they're mostly sweet snacks. So it's actually really hard to withstand it on the flight, especially for 11 hours without solid food. Continuing my storytelling while eating. So this is basically when we got on the plane, the air cabin crew checked our temperature outside of the aircraft, and then when we were taking off, when we were in the air and started to like settle down, they checked our temperature again, and then before we landed, they did it again. So it was 3 times. So it's quite like promising, although like I've heard that some really disgusting people, they would take like Panadol or something before they get on the plane, so they wouldn't get checked with their temperature because it lowers your temperature, and then because they want to get home. I understand, but honestly, like this is just your own responsibility, you know, like if you're sick and then you are able to infect a plane of people, then you shouldn't fucking do it. So fast forward to we come on board, but nobody came on board at the end. So we waited for around 30 minutes there because they were splitting us into 50 people per group to get outside to get checked individually, because there were people doing individual interrogations outside. And also we have to fill out a health declaration form, as well as like digital form on WeChat if you are a Chinese citizen, I believe. So this woman, after the cabin crew announced that we had to wait until the quarantine control comes on board, and we have to go down like by group, and then she started shouting, like she was like, excuse me, I have the symptoms, can I get down please? And I was just like, what? Everybody was so shocked, and they were just looking at her like, what are you saying? And then the air hostess, she was also quite speechless. She was like, I mean, why would you say that? I mean, for me personally, I feel like she just wanted to get down a plane as soon as possible. That's why she said, because she knows that, like, you know, you'll get quarantined if you have the symptoms. But, girl, you will get a lawful consequence if it wasn't true. And thank God the air hostess didn't take her seriously. I mean, not thank God, but I mean, I don't think that anyone with an actual coronavirus would react that way. So I was really worried actually because my visa is for Italy. It's a Schengen visa, but it's issued for Italy. So because right now Italy is has a high risk of getting infected considering how many people are infected. And I don't know what the government is doing, but I'm not going to comment much on that because I don't know the situation that well there. I mean, on the form, it focuses on where you have been for the past 14 days and whether you had symptoms for the past 14 days or like if you had any contact with people that had been infected or people who have been tested. So obviously I had none of that because I was in Switzerland for the past 14 days. Like I told them like where I have been from January of 2020 till the day I arrived in Shanghai, and then they were like, okay, this is good, da 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 da. And then they put on a yellow sticker on my passport, which is, I suppose you have a blue sticker, you have a yellow sticker, and then you have a red sticker. So the red sticker is for the really, really coronavirus concentrated places like Italy, South Korea, Iran. Out of the custom, I mean, people were constantly asking questions of, so where did you travel from, da, 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 to make sure that every single piece of information is coherent. And then I got out, there was another group of people waiting. Basically you have to pass another group of control because Shanghai is divided into districts, and then basically you have like your own car, your parents' car who's gonna pick you up, then you have to register every single piece of information, including their identities. So the government would know where to trace. So for mine, I arrived my uncle and aunt, and then it was my mom and dad who was picking us up. And then yeah, like we had to tell them like our national ID, passport number, flight number, da 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 da, where do we come from, where do we live, and then they had to call the community office to make sure that there is a pickup. Okay, so this is complicated. So we have districts in Shanghai, and each district have several communities based on the town name. It's not really a town, but then they call it a town. It's like a sub-district of a district. So, and then they had to call the airport control had to call the community to tell them that we're going back so they could register it in the community so they could keep close contact with us to make sure that we have no symptoms in the next 14 days of self-quarantine. Because in Shanghai, I think right now if you arrive from 80% of the places, you have to get self-quarantine. I'm not sure if it's 100%, but it's definitely 80% and off. Uncle, and then we came home in front of my condo. For fuck's sake, I swear I've never been so, like, I laughed so much because Elise was here because I'm coming back. It was so funny. So like you had a police car, you had an ambulance, and the heads of the community, and basically people who were gonna make like communication with me, like for me to check my temperature. So they gave me thermometer to like every single day 2 times, so I have to report back my temperature. And then if I have any symptoms, I have to call the person in charge, and then they would get into contact with the doctors. China right now, if you're in self-quarantine and if you go outside and you're seen by people and they could report you, and you would suffer from a legal consequence. Like the worst is you have to go into jail. So my mom was telling me a story about this guy who went to Italy to see the football match, and then he lied UAE instead of Italy, and then obviously he had people who were in contact with him, and I think it's because those people got corona, and that's why he was traced and questioned, but he lied, and he lied again after the second interrogation, which after 3 days he showed symptoms, and now he has to go to jail. So yeah, fun times. They tested my temperature then. They have this like gun thing. I think everybody have seen it now. And then they told me like the procedure. They told me what to do, what not to do. And it's honestly really strict. Like apparently my parents have to get self quarantine just because I came back, so they had contact with me. And we all have to be quarantined separately because you don't want cross infection. Because they picked me up with a mask. I mean, I understand because it's really like risky. Like you don't know it's better to be safe than sorry. I don't remember who said that to me, but shout out to that person because it's true, and I think that's how China is treating it right now. It's just I do not know how I'm gonna spend the rest of the 14 days at home because I genuinely cannot exit my room, pretty much. Well, I hope you enjoyed this informative video. Obviously, I'm gonna keep you updated. Right now, I don't feel any symptoms at all. I hope I will never. But on a plane, because with the mask, I usually feel stuffy without a mask as well on an airplane because it's quite dry and then the air ventilation is quite low. So I felt a bit dizzy, but I know that's how my body usually react to like airtight spaces for a long period of time. But when I came back home, I was super tired, so I felt like really sleepy and I felt really tired, and then I slept and now everything is good. So see you in my next quarantine video. Bye bye.